All's Nasty Forum Thread number 2345, created by user Chorus at 5:18 Alexandria Standard Time. Subject title: Important Witch Drama on Jernabog.
A friend of mine was recently involved in a large scandal over on Jernabog. She made a post to summarize the events, and knowing that the moderators, or maybe even Pythagoras, sometimes check here, asked me to share it. Link's going up in 5 minutes.
Oh, the witches are fighting again.
OP, where's the link?
Can you read, numbnuts? Chorus said 5 minutes.
OP, where's the link?
For God's sake, don't make me call the moderators on you.
Thank you, user Detractus, for having some class.
Sorry, I'm back. Wanted to check to make sure she was really good with this. The witches don't always get along with the mods. Anyway, here it is.
Jernabog entry dated, date redacted, created by user Anathema at 4:14 Alexandria Standard Time. Subject title: What Happened with Mesperyian.
Many of you on Jernabog already know who I am, but for those who don't, and for those beyond the reaches of our little swamp, I am what they call an Othernet old-timer. I've been a pretty stable pillar of the witch community since shortly after the Othernet's inception. I don't say this to brag. Rather, I simply wanted to offer an explanation for my involvement in this incident, and also why I'm able to speak on this subject with authority. Also, apologies to outsiders for my formal manner of speech. It's sort of custom for Jernabog, and especially for witch journals, so bear with me. I promise it'll be at least more comprehensible than leet speak. I learned about Mesperyian pretty early on in her career on this website, but we witches already tend to be looked down on by the rest of the Othernet, if only because we're a group of women, and she wasn't interfering with me at all, so I didn't even consider stepping in. Now, I wish I had. Before we start all the way back at the beginning, I want to make something clear. Mesperyian was a huckster. She infiltrated our community to learn some buzzwords, then used them to sell products to the outside, and eventually those on the inside as well. There was still some confusion at the end, and I want there to be no mistake. If she still has you fooled, or you're too deep in the hole to deny her, then I apologize for this bias account, and I'm sorry that there will most likely never be another one from her side. For everyone else, read on. In true drama breakdown fashion, I have no pleasure in writing this. That pleasure is for the gaping public, who will inevitably rehash my words in more consumable formats. Right now, you might be staring at this page with an empty teacup in hand, ready to receive. I promise you won't want any more by the time we're done. A user by the name Mesperyian first posted on the communal journal The Brew about 2 years ago. I was more active back then, though I wasn't really posting anything on my own. Mostly I was just responding to questions. I've been a witch for much more of my life than most. Bear in mind she only appeared as Mesperyian then. She very well might have been lurking for much longer, or even gone under a different username. The only fact is that Mesperyian's first post, period, was on The Brew 2 Octobers ago.
Hello, Brew. Gosh, I'm just so giddy I don't know where to start. I've been a witch, officially, for about 3 months, but I didn't stumble upon this community until the other day. I've never used Journa before, so sorry if I step on any toes. I do have a quick question, though. If I'm trying to learn more about the craft, where is the best place to get started?
She struck me as odd immediately. And yes, I'm aware hindsight is 20/20. It was mostly just a couple of little things. She knew that most users abbreviate Jernabog as Journa instead of something like JB, as new users tend to do, despite claiming to have never used it. But, most of all, she just seemed so happy. Most new witches aren't that peppy. At the time, I chalked it up to overcompensation. There was also the matter of the username, Mesperyian. In addition to pointing her to some starter spells and rituals, a few of the girls asked her where it came from.
Mesperyian is the Greek goddess of torture, and also the daughter of Hades.
Okay, that's a little edgy, but she's probably someone who's a little young. Before we continue, I just want to illustrate what the Brew is like. If you're already familiar, feel free to skip this section. The Brew is the closest thing to a community a lot of us modern witches have. Our craft is often solitary. Real witches are rare, after all. So the Brew is the only space that most of us have to feel safe and to share what we have learned in our personal practice. Of course, you don't have to be a real witch to join the Brew. We have plenty of Wiccans, pagans, and other practitioners. The only real requirements are that you be female, whatever that means to you, and you are interested in the craft. Inevitably, however, there was always going to be a slight divide between witches and non-witches. Those of us who are certainly not telling how we actually acquired our powers. It's an unspoken rule that it never be mentioned. If you know, then the reason's obvious. Sometimes this leads to some drama, but if a little drama is the price to pay for preventing some people from using the excuse, then it's a small price to pay. I'm going to have to break that rule today. I hope the others understand, but I don't blame them if they don't. Anyway, the next 6 months were relatively uneventful. Mesperyian quickly became the belle of the ball. The first few months she mostly asked questions, left responses on older posts. She really dug deep too, left a question or two on some of my ritual guides from years back. I thought the answers to said questions were pretty obvious, but again, I assumed she was probably a teenager, and being a new witch as a kid is scary, so I did my best and tried to be patient with her. Quickly, she left this phase. A little too quickly, for my liking. She made a few posts of her own, mostly some minor adaptations of established incantations, but mostly she just became popular socially. She really did have a way with words, weaving some very humorous stories about her life that really endeared people to her. She became especially popular among the non-witches and some of the newer girls, almost positing herself as some sort of link between the two groups.
Honestly, sometimes I think the pagans know way more than we do, and there's so much we can learn from them. It makes me wonder why no one's really reached out before now.
Not very successfully, if you couldn't tell. Later, this would turn more sinister, but I have no idea if she was sowing the seeds here or not, with the innocent passive aggressiveness and all. Along with her little stories, we got some details about her, and this is the moment where things got a little hazy for me, mostly because said details got somewhat contradictory. There were a few things she was consistent with. Much to my surprise, Mesperyian claimed to be 25 and lived in the English countryside with her new husband and their 2 dogs. She wrote a little younger than that, but maybe it just sounded like that to me because she was British. Other things, however, weren't as consistent. These posts, for instance, were made a month apart from each other.
I found that a bit of hair from your familiar works best. I just take it off the brush since Cassie sheds so often, but it is such a lovely black color. Always trust your familiars. Yesterday our Lucy just wouldn't sit down and had her fur raised all morning. She's such a small white dog that she looked like a marshmallow with her fur all puffed out like that.
Of course, there's the obvious. Which one of her dogs she claimed to be her familiar changed, but also maybe you saw it. She spelled color the American way. She was pretty consistent about it too, so I'm not just cherry-picking. Right around this time, there was another round of tension building on the brew. I don't have any proof of this, but there was a certain pointed tension to the usual pretentious witches sentiments that weren't usually present. A user who asked to remain anonymous came to me with concerns and pointed out 1 or 2 of the above examples, so I agreed to look into things. The first thing I did was look up her username. I'm not kidding when I say that I laughed out loud when I found my answer, because Mesperyian is not a real Greek goddess. She's someone's OC that a certain website on the proper internet accidentally spread around. Of course, this by itself doesn't mean anything. The worst you could accuse her of is not doing her proper research. I only even brought it up because it was very indicative of the rest of my investigation. Of course, by going through her journal and all of her posts, I found a veritable number of discrepancies. The town she supposedly lived in changed several times, and by cross-referencing, I found out that only one of them actually existed. Her husband's name was consistently Tom, but she couldn't seem to decide whether he was of African or Indian descent. And, of course, there was the matter of the accent. When I asked a British friend of mine what part of the country Mesperyian might be from, with no other context, she said this: "I wouldn't think she's from any part of the UK at all." Of course, this was only based on text, but with all of these things put together, a picture was starting to form. Another friend of mine who knows a little more about computers than me helped me with IP shenanigans. As it turns out, with a little fiddling, you can pretty easily view the IP addresses of anyone who's posted on your journal, and looky there, Mesperyian had left a very lengthy response to a vague post I'd made about the increasing anti-witch drama on the brew, as well as several of her entourage. And you know what I found? Her IP led not to anywhere in England, but to Providence, Rhode Island, which, in case you were uninformed, is nowhere near the UK. But what was worse was that the addresses of several of her little toadies led to the exact same place. So not only was she a liar, but she was also a sock puppeteer as well. At this stage, you might be wondering, to what end? Why did this person go through all the trouble to make up a false identity for herself to invade a space that she could have just joined as herself? And why use that identity to try to tear apart said community? Because by this point, the drama on the brew had gotten, pretty bad. Mesperyian and her entourage had managed to backhandedly bully one of the mods so badly that she decided to step down. The brew announced that the position wouldn't be filled right away, but it was rumored, and by rumored I mean that she was openly bragging about it, that Mesperyian herself was in talks with the rest of the mod team to fill it.
Endor and I have been chatting a lot lately. She's such a gas. We might have some fun news for you lot soon.
Endor being the journal owner and head mod. I guess she figured that she needed one more push to get Endor to make up her mind. Up until this point, I'd been in communications with a couple of the girls I trusted about my findings, but we hadn't decided to go public with it yet. This made us change our minds.
I've learned so much from both witches and non-witches in my time here on the brew, but I realize that some of us have less access to this knowledge than others. So I've opened a Just Be page where you can purchase instructions and consultations for some of my very favorite spells.
The post goes on for way longer than this, gushing about how this will open up new avenues for even more people to get involved with the craft, etc. You get the idea. This, quite obviously, did not have the reaction she was hoping for. That might have flown on the real internet, but the Othernet was created by people trying to get away from monetized bullshit. That was literally Pythagoras' mission statement. And to take the things that we've been freely sharing as a community and trying to sell it back to us, the journal didn't take this well. Then she tried to double down and defend herself, which is always the worst thing you can do in situations like this. It only got worse for her when we looked at the Just Be page and realized she'd been selling these spells to the broader Othernet for the past year. And on top of that, they were all pretty much garbage. So this person, whoever she was, had infiltrated our community so she could learn our secrets and sell them to an Othernet that doesn't know any better and doesn't necessarily care to try, and then tried to tear us apart so that we wouldn't be able to fight back when she took over and sold them back to us. And I know what you're thinking. She must have been some kind of criminal mastermind, right? Oh no. It's worse. She was a child. Because that IP address that I found earlier, the one from Providence, yeah, it originated from somewhere on the campus of Brown University. Knowing this, and seeing how the brew had already unified and turned against her, I decided to give her one shot to bow out gracefully before I dropped everything I knew on the brew. So I sent her a DM. I know who you are. You're not a newlywed from England. You're a college student at Brown.
Who told you that?
No one. I just did some digging, that's all.
I'm sorry to say you're misinformed. I have no clue where you got that idea from.
I showed her the IP address and explained how I found it.
Ah, I can see the confusion. I'm actually using a VPN.
I think you're lying to me. I've looked through nearly every single one of your posts. I'm surprised you even know what that is, considering all the times you've described yourself as computer illiterate.
Oh, you see, my husband installed it for me. He's so thoughtful.
Oh, right. Your husband. Your husband Tom from India. Or was it Nigeria?
Shit.
I proceeded to spend the next hour or so pulling apart each one of her lies. First, it was that she was a real 27-year-old woman from England, but she wasn't married. Then she finally admitted to lying about being from England at all. Then her age. So what you're telling me is that everything about you is a lie.
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please don't dox me.
I'm not going to dox you.
Seriously, if this gets out, I could lose my scholarship. Please, please, please.
I'm starting to think you lied about being a witch as well.
No, that part is true, I swear.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Because something like this is a much bigger deal than you clearly think it is. And if I find out you lied about this...
I am a witch, I promise you. Please believe me.
Who did you kill?
What?
Who did you kill?
Why are you asking me that? You're scaring me. I didn't kill anybody.
Then you are not a fucking witch. She tried to cover her ass on that one too, but eventually she confessed to everything I'd discovered. Every last bit of it was a lie.
Okay, fine. I am all those things you said I am. Please don't dox me. I'm begging you.
I'm not gonna fucking dox you, kid, but here's what you're going to do. You're going to delete the Just Be page, you're going to make a formal apology on the brew, and then you're going to leave.
Okay, I will.
Why did you do all of this?
I don't know. I honestly don't. It was just fun. It didn't seem real.
Well, it was real. You conned real people out of real money. Go to fucking therapy. And that was that. At least I thought it was. The next day, her apology went up.
The Justy page is down. I lied about everything. I'm leaving now.
It wasn't much of an apology considering everything that she did, but she was a kid and the monetary part was what I was concerned about anyway. I doubted it would be within her power to refund everybody she'd already conned, but at least I could prevent future suckers from slandering the witch name any more than it already is. Gradually, the wounds would begin to heal. Though we'd never been through a schism this big, we'd be able to pick up the pieces somehow. Okay, so Mesperyian did everything she said she was going to, so why are you able to read this document right now? I must look like a pretty big tool doxing her like that when I promised I wouldn't. I swear I was going to keep my word, but something tells me it doesn't really matter all that much anymore. She didn't kill herself or anything. At least, I don't think that's what happened. But a week later, our DMs suddenly reopened.
I'm not going to be a liar anymore.
What are you talking about? Do you know what time it is?
I'm going to do it. I'm going to become a witch.
What? No, wait, who told you about it? I didn't give you enough to actually go through with it.
The 15th. The Holy One of the Gnostics and the Templars.
Okay, is this some kind of new angle?
It is a new truth she will learn, Hazel. One that you learned at 5 years old.
Where the fuck did you find all that? Even my name? Fuck you, kid. This isn't funny. I didn't post anything, just like I promised.
You aren't the only one with tricks. Though it is much easier for a ghost of the machine to find information inside of it. Your mask is perfect. But you slipped one time.
I'm not talking to Mesperyian anymore.
She asked. I agreed to help. Though it might not be the help she wanted.
Leave that poor kid alone. She doesn't know what she's messing with.
It's too late. Do you want to see?
And that was that. No matter how much I messaged, she never responded. I think she's probably dead. I wrote this whole addendum to hopefully pass it on to someone who can help. Something tells me the mods won't be much help here, but maybe Pythagoras? I know he's not really around anymore. I don't know. Something happened here. Something that is most likely still there. I don't think I can deal with this on my own. I'm sorry.
All's Nasty Forum thread number 2345. Continuation.
Blah, so long. Anyone got a TLDR?
Dude, what the fuck? Have some respect.
What I do? I swear it's just like those hoes on Journabog to write a novel about any little bit of drama.
If you'd actually bothered to read it, you'd know that it's not just a bit of drama. Regardless, Karis, I just want to confirm with you, this isn't just like a story or, what are they called, spooky pastas?
I doubt it. I just wonder if she'd cut down that final conversation at all.
Give me a minute.
Hello, OP here, kinda. Sorry, I've never used All's Nasty before, so I had to make an account. This is not a story, Bad Apple. It's entirely true. That last bit happened just last week. To Tractus, the only thing I cut out of that conversation was a bit of the video at the end. She screamed something, but it was very loud and seemed to be gibberish to me.
Think you could send it to me?
Sure, friend me and I'll DM it to you.
Do you think there'll be something to find there?
I can't confirm this, but I think one of the moderators might have gone rogue.
End transcript.